Hi, how are you? It's a Dr. Muso. Today we want to talk about the UDI. In November 1965, Ian Douglas Smith, he pronounced what was known as the UDI, which claimed or which stated that Africans were not going to self-govern themselves. So today we want to talk about the reasons for the pronouncement, the reasons why Ian Douglas Smith had to declare the UDI in 1965. So our question is identify five reasons. So we want to talk about five reasons which led the pronouncement of the Unilateral Declaration of Independence in 1965. So what were the reasons? What led Ian Douglas Smith to pronounce the UDI? Number one, we see that the UDI, it was pronounced by the white extremists, those whites who were saying that Rhodesia is ours, we belong to Rhodesia, Africans, you are not going to govern yourselves. Those whites who were so extreme, who were so sure that Rhodesia belongs to them. So the white extremists, they were against any compromises with the Africans. They did not want to compromise with the Africans. They wanted to continue dominating what was taking place in southern Rhodesia or in Rhodesia. They wanted to continue exploiting the Africans, using the Africans in their mines and also at their farms. They wanted to control everything that was taking place in Rhodesia, politically, economically, and socially. So it was pronounced why. It is because of these white extremists who wanted to remain at the top of what was taking place in Rhodesia. Then we also see that the UDI, it was passed in 1965 as a way of maintaining the white supremacy. They wanted to remain at the top. They wanted to remain as Mabas, the bosses. They wanted to remain controlling all the resources, all the activities that were taking place in Rhodesia. So they wanted that supremacy, that power of controlling everything that was taking place in Rhodesia. They also wanted to prevent the nationalist movement desire for independence. Our gallant sons and daughters, you talk about Leopold Dagawira, you talk about Herbert Chitepo, you talk about Jason Ziapapa Moyo, you talk about Joshua Nyongolo Kankamo Ponkomo, encouraging the people, take up your arms, let's fight against these whites, let's remove the settlers from our country, let's remove them from our areas. So the UDI, it was passed to prevent these nationalists who were spreading information, who were encouraging, motivating, inspiring people to take up their arms and fight against the whites. Then it was also passed as to make sure that one man, one vote system was going to be done away with. They did not want that one man, one vote system. Why? It is because the Africans, as the majority, they were going to win in the elections. So they wanted to limit the franchise. They wanted to make sure that very few Africans participated in an election. And the whites, they were going to remain participating politically in everything that was taking place in the country. The UDI was also passed in 1965. Why? It was because it was against what Garfield told our liberal measures on Africans. So Garfield, we see that he suggested that Africans were supposed to be given a say in what was taking place in southern Rhodesia. Those liberal reforms that wanted to be implemented in southern Rhodesia, So when the UDI was passed, it was a way of thwarting, stopping those liberal ideas, those liberal thoughts that were expressed by, say, Garfield or Field. Then we also see that it was passed one because it was against the 1961 constitution. Africans were going to be given a say in this constitution, so that we see that the whites who were in Southern Rhodesia, they're not in favor of what of this, so they were against the 1961 constitution. It was also created to create a settler self-rule. They wanted to create their rule in Southern Rhodesia. They wanted to continue exploiting the Africans. They wanted to continue ruling the Africans. So the UDI, it was passed to create the settlers rule in Southern Rhodesia. It was passed in order to make them continue dominating the political arena, the political atmosphere that was in Southern Rhodesia. It was also passed to maintain the apartheid system north of the Limpopo. You know that South Africa, it was under the dominance of the whites. So they wanted that dominance also to prevail in Southern Rhodesia. They wanted the whites to continue dominating what was taking place in Southern Rhodesia. So we have seen the reasons that led the UDI to be passed in 1965. So when the UDI was passed, it meant that Ian Dougie Smith was now responsible for everything that was taking place in Southern Rhodesia. That is what we have on the UDI of 1965. Thank you so much. It's Dr. Muso.